Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. So my name is, can everyone hear me okay? Sweet. So yeah, my name's Andrew and I do digital mobilization at Greenpeace in Auckland. So what that means is that I write all the emails, not all the emails, I write emails, I do our social media accounts, and then I also work with Sarah a lot on Coca-Cola, which is our instance of, which is our kind of community campaigning platform. And yeah, so what I'm really hoping to do today is just to run you through some stuff, what I think of when I'm using different social media, some examples of good social media, that I think working well from Greenpeace and from other organizations, and then hopefully trying to get you to think about, just getting you to think about specific instances of how you could use social media and all of that sort of stuff. It's quite a big topic, and so you may have expectations about what you're going to get from this meeting, and if I'm not meeting them, if there's things you want to know, then please just shout out, because this is only as useful as it is. What I mean, this is only as useful as you find it, basically. So if there's stuff you want to know, then just ask it and I will do my best to answer. So I'm going to try and share my screen now, which we will see how that goes. Share screen. Okay, sweet. So now, by any luck, you should be seeing my screen. Let's just go. So can everyone see? Oops, I'll just scroll back. Just giving away all my slides, no big deal. Can everyone see that? Is that okay? Sweet, all right, cool. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna start with Facebook because everyone probably knows Facebook and probably everyone here has an account. I guess there's a few things to think about Facebook, which if you're using it for an organization, for campaigning purposes, are maybe not are a bit different to how you'd use it personally. So the first thing is, well, there's a couple of things to say about Facebook. Firstly is that Facebook is a for-profit company and its product is to sell adverts to consumers, to the people who use it every day. So there's this tension that Facebook lives in between giving advertisers what they want and obviously making sure users aren't annoyed by what they're getting, etc. So what that means is they're constantly changing the algorithm. They're constantly changing which content they show to users and which content they deprioritize to users. And that changes the game quite a lot for organizations. So for example, recently they've organic pages. So when you post something from the Greenpeace page, the amount of people it goes to has recently been essentially kneecapped for various reasons that I won't necessarily go into. So it's really important to keep an eye out for how Facebook is changing. So at the moment, for example, groups are being prioritized. So if you've got a group of people who are really interested in your issue, then that is, and if you post something to that group, almost everyone in that group will see your content that you're posting. But if you post something to a page, it's maybe going to go to like a couple of % of people. And, so really it's not going to go very far. So thinking about groups rather than pages would be like a top tip that you could think about. Experimenting with ads is also quite a useful strategy. I know obviously if you're in a small organization, you don't have a huge amount of money, but $50, $30, if you wanted to target to people who live in Auckland who are friends with Greenpeace and who like the Labour Party or something, you can really target it quite concretely and quite specifically. And so, small amounts of money can go quite a long way. And it's just worth thinking about, and often grassroots groups particularly aren't really in that frame of mind, but it's a really useful frame of mind to be in. And the third kind of top tip, I guess, is really don't stress. You know, Greenpeace as an organization has people all around the world who spend quite a lot of time on Facebook. So when they change the algorithm, there are people who test different content, and there are people who kind of, you know, they send emails about what it all means and all that kind of stuff, which is great. But if you're a small organization, you don't have that level of resource. So it's, you may find that there's an algorithm change and your content used to be performing really well and is now not doing so well. And that is just, I'm afraid, the nature of the beast. That is what happens when you're kind of reliant on a third party to kind of spread the word. So don't stress too much about it. Just keep the content you're doing kind of varied. And inevitably, that's going to do better than if you decide that some content does better than others and just push. I mean, generally at the moment, video does quite well, but not everyone can produce video, and it also used to do a lot better than it currently does. So who knows kind of what's coming next is basically what it. So something I think have worked really well. This content doesn't have to be slick at all. It doesn't have to be very well produced. The sound, just by the way, is a bit dodgy, but I'm not going to show you the whole video. I'm just going to show you little bits. So this is something Greenpeace US did as part of our campaign on pipelines. We're trying to target a guy called Jamie Dillon, who's the CEO of Citibank. And Citibanks are one of the banks that invest in pipelines, which are terrible news for the environment, for Indigenous rights in North America, for all sorts of reasons. So we wanted to target him. His bank sponsors a thing called Chase Race, which is like it's either a half marathon or a marathon, I'm not sure. And so what we did was one of our activists went there, and another one of our activists went there with a mobile phone and produced something that looks like this. You won't be able to hear the sound, but I'm just going to sort of skip along, and you can kind of see the kind of production values that we had. Just bear with me 1 second. So like, this is all preamble explaining kind of what they're doing. And then like they actually ran the chase race. So like, this obviously is not great. We didn't use very slick, you know, we could have got stabilizing cameras and all that kind of stuff. But this is a guy just following people with face masks on their back. You know, it's like, it's dead simple. It did super well because it was quite funny, and it's kind of nonsense, but people really loved it. And it's the kind of thing that all we really needed with these costumes and a mobile phone. And it did super well. So that was that. The other thing to say is it doesn't have to be sexy. I'm probably not going to show this because it probably doesn't add a huge amount of value without the sound. But what Greenpeace Australia do is every week they sit someone down on a sofa, and they sit 2 people down, and it's maybe a campaigner and it's a comms person, but it could be anyone. And they're just chatting about an issue. So they've done videos on the plastic bag ban, or not the plastic, the supermarkets, their response to plastic bags. And they've done, you know, the energy policy in Australia and what it all means, like quite detailed conversation, but really basic. They're just on the sofa, it's just chatting. But people are kind of into it because it's a level of like increasing their engagement. Not everything has to be whittled down to a very simple thing. Often there's like, some people are really into spending half an hour to talk about energy policy or you know, whatever it is your thing. It's worth thinking about.
Like is that a Facebook Live?
Yeah, it's just a Facebook Live. It's dead easy. So again, do it.
Do people check in at the time, or are they using it after? They're checking it afterwards, watching it afterwards?
So it's done. There's a Q&A element. So like they are doing it live, but there are but because it's live, it lives there forever. So it's kind of, it serves as a bit of a resource that people can then kind of watch at their leisure. So yeah, so they do it Friday afternoon, just as kind of people are kind of winding down from their work, like 4 or 5 o'clock. which again, I would have thought intuitively, I would have thought that was a bad idea because people want to go to the pub. But it kind of captures that place where people are kind of winding down from their work and they're not that interested. Yeah, all that sort of stuff.
Kate's got a question there. How does captioning improve audience of videos? Does it improve?
Yeah, so Elliot, just as a process one, are you happy to take questions on chat?
Yeah, if that's not interrupting.
Yeah, no, that's sweet. Just because it flashes up in my window, so just so I can do that. Yeah, so captioning is really important for us from an accessibility point of view, because not everyone, it's obviously not everyone, like if you're hard of hearing, captioning really helps. Also, if English isn't your first language, it really helps to have the words written down. So we do that sort of as a matter of course. You can't caption live videos. So stuff like what I've just talked about, you can't caption, which is unfortunate. So yeah, we always try and caption things, or we try and make it so that the text is kind of on the video is sufficiently self-explanatory that even if it doesn't capture every word of dialogue, you could still watch that. It'd be fine. Also, the other thing to say is that when Facebook videos particularly appear in your feed, the sound is switched off. Facebook are experimenting with that. But basically, if it's captioned, then people can understand what's going on, sort of regardless of whether or not they've got the sound on. So it's a really useful thing to do, kind of regardless. There's and Facebook makes that quite easy in the video tools. They suggest captions that you use. That's definitely has to be edited. It's not great with Kiwi accents particularly, but if you edit it, it's like, it doesn't take a lot of work just to recorrect what they've said, essentially. So yeah, super easy to do and super useful for all kinds of reasons. And yeah, so it doesn't have to be, the final thing to say is it doesn't have to be video, it doesn't have to be particularly high budget. This is our most successful post over the last 3 months. And it's just, or maybe longer than that, but it's just the bag ban. And it's a simple graphic. That picture exists on our media library, and we just overlaid some text. And that did crazy well. And, so it doesn't need to be video, it doesn't need to be high budget. Sometimes it just captures the moment and it just captures what people are into, and it does super well. So it's really important on Facebook just to try different stuff and keep going with it and not stress too much about it, because it does do really well.
Just to push you a little bit, are there any other things, details which tend to do well, if you're thinking about a post?
Yeah, so as a very general rule, content that you've created yourself does much better than content that you've borrowed from other people. So that's like sharing, doing your own macro is much better, generally speaking, than sharing a news story. Having said that, we posted something from The Independent recently and it did crazy well. So all of these things are very general guidelines. They're not kind of hard and fast rules. So it's all about basically how people interact initially. So if you post something and the first people who see it go crazy for it, then Facebook will post that to more people. And then if they go crazy for it, it will go for more people still. So there are no kind of hard and fast rules. I'd say that video, it probably does better than anything else. I think that, yeah, and I think the news story, and I think that, yeah, creating your own content is generally better than not creating your own content.
I'm sorry, there's one more question from Kit. What's macro?
Oh, sorry, that's Facebook jargon. I mean, that's Greenpeace jargon. I mean something like this, like a graphic, basically. So yeah, I don't know why we call them macros, but I've said it so much that it's kind of ingrained in my head. So any images that you've created yourself, which we will work out how to do for free later on. So don't feel that this is a Photoshop job. You can do this stuff for free. It's easy. Great. Cool. All right. We will move on. So the next is Twitter. Twitter is much less popular than Facebook is, particularly in New Zealand. But the people who are on it are typically the right sort of people, if that's not too elitist a term. So you can, journalists and influencers are typically on here. They've got the advertising here is kind of okay, but it's not great. But it's a really great way of kind of being seen by people who could make a real big influence to your campaign. I mean, uses by, and examples of really great campaigns run on Twitter are, there's quite a lot of them. Obviously, the biggest ones right now are Me Too and Black Lives Matter. So without talking too much about like the politics and oppression of white women and people of color generally, like these are issues that have been around for centuries, and they will obviously continue to be around, hopefully not for much longer. But the thing here is that that Twitter kind of enabled these people to amplify their voices in a way that had never been done previously, and was also a way of connecting with other people in a way that had not been done previously. So for example, there's a Black Lives Matter that is now, so that started in America, it's spread everywhere. In the UK, it's quite big. And there's no question that there was this kind of really brilliant activists in the UK could really capitalize on what was happening in America, because it was sort of existing on Twitter in a way that became visible for everyone and could become a national conversation really quickly. There's obviously way more to it than like writing a hashtag and just tweeting about it, but I think that it's a really good illustration of the power Twitter has when done really well. At the moment, our hashtag Making All History is trending, and because it's trending, people are talking about it, and it's a way of just getting visibility for your issue. You know, obviously a lot of tweets like go into nothingness, but when it catches fire, it really catches fire, and we saw that like with the Arab Spring. We're seeing it all around the world, and it's kind of exciting because you don't quite know what's going to come next. And as we've seen with these issues, there's obviously like a lot more to go, where it comes from, you know, liberating ourselves from the oppression of women and white supremacy and all of that. But these issues are being talked about and are achieving results in a way that was maybe not really was not really possible. You know, how can I say this? Like it feels much more visible and much more talked about than it has been recently for mainstream audiences, and I think that's really key, and that's like the power of what we can do for it. So yeah, so that's really good. That's where I think it is great. So again, I guess in conclusion to that, it's probably quite important to be on Twitter, just for that reason of like when something happens, if you do something, if you have an action or something, it just gives you a place for people to talk about it and connect with each other and all that sort of stuff, in a way that Facebook is a much more private medium. So stuff like that doesn't quite happen as easily. Yeah. So next up we have YouTube. YouTube is really good for long form storytelling. I think it's quite good. It's better for Facebook for all kinds of reasons. It's much less algorithmic-y and it's much less gimmicky than Facebook. So it really gives you a chance to tell a story in a long form way, in a way that is often you can't really do on Facebook, because it's all about grabbing people's attention. Whereas YouTube is a much more deliberate thing. You know, people will have discovered your content based on the fact that it's similar to stuff they've already viewed, or they'll have searched for it directly by saying, you know, what's going on with recycling in New Zealand or whatever it is. And so that is, so it's a really great way of telling a longer form story in a way that you've got much more control over, I think. A really great example is TED Talks. I know that's a bit naff and a bit gimmicky, but like TED Talks are really, like, so many people have had an actual education of TED Talks, and so many people will sit down and spend half an hour learning about. So this is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie talking about why we should be feminists, and you know that was referenced by Beyonce, and that was other people, and like there's a real potential to get your point across in quite a nuanced and beautiful way with YouTube that there isn't with other social media. And I think that certainly Greenpeace is guilty of not giving that necessarily as much love as it probably deserves. So I would say definitely, if you've got the resources and the time, tell your story in the way that you want to tell it on YouTube. And if you tell it well, it will do really well. It's also worth mentioning that people have made careers off YouTube, and people have built followings from, you know, unboxing video games and doing all kinds of stuff. And it feels like it's a real platform for niche in a way that Facebook, for example, definitely isn't. And if you look at something like the vegan movement has just exploded, and that's absolutely because these people got their voices on Twitter, on YouTube, and it kind of helped share the story in a way that perhaps wouldn't have been possible recently. So yeah, I'm a huge advocate of YouTube. I'm as guilty as anyone of not using it as much as I should do, but yeah, get more on stuff on YouTube. I think that's pretty great. Sweet. Next up is Instagram. Again, everyone's probably heard of Instagram. Everyone probably uses it. But I think it's really, from our perspective, it has really great engagement potential. When we post something on Instagram, it typically less people will see it, but more people will react to it. A higher percentage of people who have seen it will react to it on Instagram. So it's kind of new for us, but but also really exciting because it has loads of engagement potential. It's also something that grassroots groups particularly, I think, are using pretty well, because it just really allows beautiful imagery to kind of pop and tell a story in its own way. So Project Blue New Zealand, do a really good job of sharing other photographers' work. And so they do a really good job of sharing what's happening to our oceans with really beautiful imagery that they don't necessarily commission themselves, but they share it. And it's a really beautiful example, I think, of using the resources of often in campaigning, we think of our supporters' resources as, you know, capacity to sign a petition or show up to a protest or whatever. And I think this is a really great example of using our supporters' resources, that one of our supporters' resources is creativity, and that we can tap into that and we can share it. And that's a really beautiful thing. And that's something that we can do. And that, particularly if it's something like oceans, the people react to like how beautiful oceans are, and we can really tap into that for social change. Related to oceans, this is the Kiwi Bottle Drive. We do some great stuff on bottle deposits, and particularly targeting Coke. And this, I think, is just the most beautiful image. I mean, it's only got 14 likes, which is a shame, but I think like it's highlighting a problem, which is pollution, litter in this case, but like in a really beautiful way. Have you ever seen a more beautiful image of a Coke can than that? I'm not sure. And yeah, I think they do such amazing work, and this is a really great way of thinking about, I guess, what your message is and what the medium is that you're trying to share it on, and how those two things mesh together. I think this is a really great example of that.
It's an interesting example as well, because they are running a petition on our action session, and I believe they've partnered with Greenpeace as well, because Greenpeace has picked up the campaign as well.
Yeah, we did a hand in together. And I think I'm right in saying that we're still going to touch base on like working together and stuff. But yeah, no, it's a really beautiful example, I think. Sweet. And Instagram also has just launched Instagram TV, which you may have seen, which I think has really exciting potential to like engage people in a way that, you know, again, for Instagram TV, you really just need a phone. And you can tell your story in quite a cool way, and that's definitely a thing. So next up, I left this in from the previous slide. So this is Toko. This is, if you're familiar with Action Station, you're familiar with this. So I won't talk about it too much, but just it's, you know, if you're not using Action Station or Toko to build support for your campaign, then you really should, because it's a dead easy way of building up support, and you know, Action Station or Greenpeace can help you grow your petition. You can speak to your supporters. You can do all kinds of stuff, and you can create events and all the rest of it. And it's a really brilliant way of getting people interested in your campaign and to take further steps towards engagement.
Can you talk about it a bit more? Because actually it'd be cool just to show how it interacts with social media. Like if you go into one of the petitions, it's set up so it shares to Facebook and to Twitter.
Yeah, that is.
Well, you were going to talk about that anyway.
Yeah, I was.
Sorry.
No, that's all good. Let me just get up my browser. Okay, cool. Yeah. So what? Control Shift, which is the company that builds the platform that Toggle and Action Station sit on, spent quite a lot of time testing all kinds of stuff around how to get more shares on Facebook and Twitter to grow petitions. So it's quite good. If you go to Toggle, so something we've done recently actually on Toggle is we want people to arrange their own beach cleanup, or what we're calling brand audits, where you go to a beach, you clean up all the plastic trash, and then you monitor where the plastic is coming from. So is it a Coke bottle? Is it a shampoo bottle? Blah, 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 blah. And what's pretty good is that, actually maybe this is a bad example. So there's two things that are quite good about Toggle. One is that if you sign a petition, the integration with Facebook basically is really easy. So I'm now just going to think of an example that's a bit more grassrootsy and not one of ours. So this is about Auckland pollution, Auckland waterways. And what happens, can you see my screen that I'm now on the Toggle website? Great. So if I go to Facebook and I share this, it's all set up to work really well. So it will come up, just let the Facebook load a while, and it will come up with an image that the user has selected. It's not doing that now because live demonstrations always suck. So it would come up with basically this image which the user has chosen, which means it kind of pops on Facebook. Also, if you sign it, you get an automatic email which is about like share on Facebook, share on Twitter.
Does Toggle have the sharing function? Because on our action session, people are invited to share it straight away as a pop-up.
Yeah, so when you sign...
Do that, yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, that's a good flag, thank you. So if I sign it, I'm just going to go there. There's my email address for anyone that speaks to me. And then I sign. And then it comes up here. So it's Facebook, Twitter, and email. And then if you click Facebook, there we go. This is going to work. Yeah, brilliant. So that's what it looks like. And it's all kind of done and optimized. And if they don't put it in, it has like a generic image. But yeah, so it's super easy. And so if you set up your petition here, if you get 50 people to sign it and they share it on their social media, it will go to maybe 150, 200 people or more than that. And so like, it's just a really great way of like quite quickly building support for your campaign.
So we used the word optimized. What did you mean?
I'm sufficiently long in the tooth that like back in the day, I was working on this in the UK, and it was when it was quite a new tool. And so they did a bunch of stuff around what the best way of getting Facebook shares was. And so this what we set up, the drop down you see before you, they tested like not having a drop down and just having it, you can see the page beneath it as just that, where you can click it. So we tested that against both of them. We tested like different logos, like the Facebook logo versus not a bit. So we went through a number of iterations. He's probably done similar testing, like down the track as well. But we tested a bunch of stuff to make sure that, to increase the chances that once someone signed your petition, they share it on social media, because for grassroots campaigns like this, that's such a big factor in what makes them successful or not, is how much the supporters take ownership and how much they kind of run with it and share it and get involved and all the rest of it. So that's kind of the genesis of all of that. Sweet. So yeah, so Toggle is really good. You can also set up events. So once you've had your petition set up, you can set up like a petition hand-in, or maybe you want to have a town hall meeting, all that kind of stuff. And it just makes it like super easy, which is great. So I would definitely recommend. Elliot, is there anything you want to cover about Action Station on this?
No, just to point out that campaigners can, the title and the social media settings, like what actually gets shared, can be changed. There's defaults, but the campaigner can update the text themselves. Also, just with the Twitter one, like for example, you can actually put a handle in. So if your target has a Twitter account, you can actually put their name, or their, like if it's Auckland Council, you can put at Auckland Council. So actually they're getting tweeted at every time somebody shares it on Twitter.
So, yeah, that's a good tip. Related to that, actually, what Greenpeace do is we put the Greenpeace New Zealand handle in, and that way we can just keep track of the conversation super easily.
Yeah. Put your own organisation, or So Renters United could put on a Twitter handle.
Yeah, and that way you've also, it's a great way of finding out who your supporters are. So you can say thanks for sharing on Twitter, and maybe that's a connection that you take forward. Like maybe that they've shared on Twitter, and maybe they're super keen to get involved in other ways, and it's just a way of kind of introducing yourself to your supporters, which is great. So that is, those are kind of the tools. Oh no, there's one more, pardon me. Canva, I promised you I would show you how to do like graphics and stuff for free. If you don't know Canva, please check it out. It's free, which I've said now 3 times, so I'm going to stop saying it. And you can create like graphics, leaflets, whatever you need to produce, you can produce for free. And I've said it again, and they also have like schools, so you can go on training programs which you pay for, but there's also like quite a lot of resource around the basics of kind of design principles. So why, what it means for a design project to be balanced and have good a grid layout and all of these kind of things. So the stuff that you normally would pay a graphic designer for hundreds of dollars, you can kind of get the basics of it for free. Which is great. Like if you're nervous about it, it really helps you decide why. It gives you a framework for deciding why an image isn't quite working and why it is, and gives you a framework for sort of playing around with it. I would really recommend it, particularly for social media. A good graphic goes a long way, and it's a really great way of getting a point across in a kind of instant visual way, which I would really recommend. So yeah, check out Canva if you haven't done so already. And I promise you, I'm not on commission. Sweet. So those are like the tools. So I thought now would be a good point to invite questions if you haven't asked a question already, or indeed if you have. And then we're going to go through just some specific examples, just to get you thinking in a few more concrete terms about how we actually use social media in campaigning. All right, no questions. Is that right? Sweet.
Can I just check with you, Harrington, because you're on mute. So if you wanted to ask something, you can take yourself off mute, or there's a chat box as well. So if you press the chat button at the bottom, you can see a chat function, and just type in your question as well. Just checking.
Sweet. So I have one from Kate. To automatically invite people to like your page when engaging with content. That's a good question. I'm pretty sure the answer to that is no. You can. I mean, you can put in when you. So when you're on Toggle and you sign a petition, that sends out an email. So you could. So you can do it that way. You can say like, click here to like it. But yeah, so Facebook separates liking a post from liking a page. So if you post something on Facebook and someone shares it, someone has the option to like the page, but there's no way of sort of forcing that. They have to do it themselves. But they can, I mean, the hope would be that once they've done it a few times, they would like the page, essentially, if that answers your question. Sweet. All right, nice. Well then, I'll move on. So I guess all of this is only useful. The danger with Facebook, with social media, using social media campaigning, is you get caught up in what we call vanity metrics, which are, you know, loads of people shared that, loads of people shared that video, loads of people retweeted that, whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. That in some sense is fine, but it's always really great to keep an eye out on what effect you're trying to have. So on social media, because it's so public, one effect you might be having would be to shame a brand or a company of anything, or even the government, into action. If everyone's talking about it on social media, they think that everyone's talking about it in real life, which is probably true. And they, you know, they act accordingly because there's a massive stink. Similarly, you might want to influence politicians, or you might want to kind of inspire people. You might want everyone to think that that like everyone is engaged in this form of social activism, and that therefore they should. So there's a number of theories of change around why we use social media. So I guess I just wanted to caution that it's not necessarily about getting 1 million views on YouTube, although that is obviously helpful. It's just thinking about what is useful and what is helpful, and you know, all that kind of stuff. So with that in mind, I just thought of a few campaign scenarios that we could maybe workshop. And doing this remotely is sometimes challenging, so we'll just kind of see how it works and if it works at all. So yeah, so this is, so what we're going to do is I'm just going to put through a suggestion, and then if you wanted to suggest ideas either by unmuting yourself and shouting them out, or putting it on chat, that's cool, we can sort of talk about it. And on all of these things, there are things that Greenpeace has worked on, or in one case is about to work on, and I thought like we could contrast some of our ideas with what Greenpeace actually did. And in some cases, what Greenpeace did worked quite well. On some cases, it sort of didn't work that well. And we can kind of talk about that. Great, so this one is Coca-Cola, who everyone knows. So Coca-Cola spends a fortune promoting and protecting its brand, but it's also one of the world's worst plastic polluters. So how could we attack their brand on social media? They clearly value their brand because they spend so much money protecting it. So social media offers an opportunity for us to really get at them. So what could we do? I'll check out the chat. Cool, so Harrington's asked a question about her specific campaign, and I think that is awesome. What I might do is leave some space at the end for what I would like to do is basically workshop specific campaigns that you guys are working on at the end. So maybe that would be a good time to kind of talk about that, because otherwise it just becomes a kind of Greenpeace vanity project. So like this is to kind of get your brain thinking, and then maybe we could take that later, which hopefully won't be international. That works for you?
Cool. Also, I think I just recommend anyone to jump in if you've got an idea, just for a brainstorming thing. I would suggest doing what is it, brand jamming? So to use their logo, which is very recognizable, and like you see it all the time, like using different words but with the same font.
Yeah. Yeah, Kate's just shared Coke in the Gutter worked quite well, and I quite like that. We didn't. Yeah, that's really good. I like it. I'll wait for other ideas and stuff. If they're not, then yeah, Coke in the Gutter I really loved actually, because it frames Coke as being rubbish, and it's both like, obviously Coke ends up in the gutter, and obviously Coke, it's kind of in the gutter in terms of like how it's behaving. Yeah, definitely getting Coke in the bottle. We use choke, as in like Coke but with choke, and as a way of being that kind of image of like choking sea life. We also did this, I'm now thinking maybe I don't show it because we're a bit short of time, but we did a spoof Coca-Cola ad, which actually kind of didn't do that well. Like we spent, that was like, I mean, it didn't do that well in New Zealand, I should say. I think it did better in Europe, where like Coke Christmas ads are a bit more of a thing, because obviously it's cold in Europe with Christmas and it's not cold here. But yeah, so this is something that we, that it was like, we did it and I'm not sure it actually did that well, whereas I think something as visceral as Coke and the Gut, I would have maybe done a bit better. So Sam's asked if you had a great graphic like that, would you use the same one for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram? Depending on resource. So this is a bit of a technical question, but basically, if you've got no time in the world, I would just do a rectangle image and then post it on, I would do a rectangle image and post it on Facebook and Twitter, and then a slightly more square one on Instagram, although Instagram is a bit difficult. If you've got more time, I would repurpose them for different things. So like square graphics now do better on Facebook than they used to. Instagram is also square and Twitter is a rectangle, but they have like different dimensions that they're optimized for. So there is a kind of broad brush, they're a website, this information changes all the time. So maybe what I'm telling you is not true. It's all available on the web if you search best dimensions. But yeah, so we typically do like 12 by 800 or 800 by 800 if it's a square. But yeah, like if you've got content that works, then repurposing it as much as possible, I think is great. I would do that all the time. And it keeps your kind of messaging very consistent as well, which is great. Sweet. So something else that we're thinking of doing, or something else that we did rather, is that when we launched our plastic strategy, we wanted to get some media cut through and get a bit of like conversational cut through anyway, so that people were talking about plastics in a way that we kind of wanted them to. And it would be great to hear some ideas about what we could have done. If anyone has any, like what would be a way of getting people to talk about. So specifically, I guess we wanted people to talk about the plastics problem in a way that wasn't talking about individual behavior and recycling and littering. We wanted to talk about the plastics problem as like corporate greed, essentially. And what would be a way of getting people excited about that? If anyone's got any ideas, I'd love to hear them.
I just remembered the image of the turtle, but you just showed that to us as well.
Yeah, there's one we did with the straw, which was great actually, and did super well. I'm just seeing if I can dig that up. Again, sorry, live demonstrations. I wanted to do all this stuff a bit beforehand, but work kind of got ahead of me.
It'll be perfect next time.
It'll be perfect next time, exactly. Well, maybe I'm conscious that it's 5 to 7 and I'm happy for now, so maybe I would do that. Maybe, I'll add that in and you can come back for a second. So the other one that we're actually thinking of is that we are working on right now, is that over 2 million people worldwide have shared the Antarctic, have signed the Antarctic petition, creating an Antarctic sanctuary. We're handing it in next week and we're trying to get people excited. But for various reasons, not least the fact that we have a ship tour in New Zealand, we don't have a huge amount of capacity. So if anyone has any ideas of how we tell the story of Arctic, we make the Antarctic petition hand in sexy and exciting and cool and stuff that we can do, then I would really love to hear your thoughts, because we're workshopping at the moment and I'm not sure we've got anything that really works. Penguins, yes, Kate, penguins, love it. We do have like ice, yeah. We do have penguin masks actually, so maybe we should get those out. And we did get people in wetsuits, which are like vaguely penguin-like, in a sort of approximate way. So yeah, maybe that's something we could do. We could test that out again. You've obviously been following the content that we've been producing, which is great.
Can I ask, I mean, because it's a really good question, like when you just start thinking about sharing an action or a campaign, like are you thinking of the tools first, or are you thinking of the image first, or, you know, what's your process for doing this?
Yeah, for me, I think of the ways in which people can engage with it. Like often it's very tempting to think up actions and stuff when you're in a room with people in the room, and it's like, we're going to get 10 people and we're going to shut down a building or whatever it is. And thinking about ways that most people can get involved, I think, is really key. So, you know, and social media kind of lends itself to that, but it's not necessarily part of it. So sometimes that could be like a live broadcast, which we can contribute to. But like often that's like an image, like in the Mackenzie, we occupied an irrigation scheme in the Mackenzie, and the image that we produced from that like really popped. And there's something that's just really valuable about like what's the most engaging thing that we can create. And sometimes people really respond to like videos, sometimes they respond to like live chat, sometimes they respond to just a really beautiful image. And yeah, so I think I'd come at it from that way, like what's the most engaging way people can get involved in this. So for petition handings, normally that's a kind of media moment, like we want it to get loads of press and then we'll be talking about it and it becomes like a moment. But if that's not possible, then how do we get people talking about it anyway? And how do we, so that's kind of the process, and it's a little bit of an art. There's no like right or wrong. But we just kind of have those discussions and kind of think about what we could do. One of those crazy tractor things going upstairs. Yeah, we've not done crazy tractor things. We could totally do a crazy tractor thing. I love that idea. I will add that to the group. Driven by penguins. Amazing. Love it. Yeah, I love it. I love it a lot. All right, sweet. So it's now 3 minutes to 7. And I would like to just spend our last... so Harrington asked a question about their campaign, which I think is quite a good one, just to maybe think about something that isn't Greenpeace. Interested... Sorry, Elliot, were you going to say something?
It's Deborah. She said her name is Deborah.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Yes, you did. Sorry, Deborah. Yeah, so we're working for Water New Zealand at the moment, and we're about to help councils engage in a campaign to stop flushing wipes, which clog pipes and cause pollution. Been working with the creative agency who have been telling us they are able to tightly target individuals, but would like to know a little bit more about how they're doing it, not just from them. So how they're doing it is they are presumably talking about, they're presumably just doing Facebook ads, and I would imagine maybe Google ads as well. And so what they're probably doing is, so you can, on Facebook, with different degrees of ethicalness, you can target people based on quite specific criteria. So they might be doing, living in a certain area, working at a certain company, interested in a certain thing, and you can really, really pinpoint. So I don't know if there's a target market for people who are flushing wipes, but let's say parents. You could probably target, people over a certain age who have liked parenting pages and that kind of thing. So that kind of that kind of thing, they're probably doing it in that way, if that answers your question. And they're also, that sounds to me like a behavior change campaign, which would work quite well for like targeted advertising in that way. Great. Sorry, when I read that question originally, I read it slightly differently. So maybe you could have taken it when you wanted it to be taken. So apologies. Okay, sweet. So that is basically like what I wanted to do from this was to show you some ideas and get you thinking about how you can use it in your own sort of spaces. So I hope that's been helpful. If there's things specifically that you want to know, I would really love you to ask those questions around, around some of those things. Kate asks, is Water New Zealand campaign to get those wipes banned? Deborah, I'll let you answer that.
I wouldn't mind hearing from you as well, Kate, just if you have any thoughts on your campaign.
Sorry, the renting one?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're in week 4 of 8 weeks of consultation. The government's reviewing the renting laws in 2 different areas. So there's 2 simultaneous consultations requiring submissions. So we've made a form that people can submit in one hit for both of those. And we're trying to get as many people to have their say as possible. So yeah, so our focus right now is just getting that shared. Well, it's getting it used as widely as possible. So any ideas at all about how we can get that out? What we're doing so far, we've had a few boosted Facebook posts with graphics made by our designer, and we've shared it amongst allies, which includes like unions and so groups with large mailing lists. But so far we've had 500 through our form, which is well behind the government's form, which is way crappier than ours. So just for the competitive part of it, any suggestions welcome on how we can catch up?
Yeah, I mean, and have you thought about, so just so I understand, you've got a form that basically people can use your form to respond to the government consultation, is that right? Great. So I guess I wonder so renters, in my experience, skew towards younger people. So yeah, I would definitely experiment with, if you've not, you said some boosted posts, but maybe experiment with targeting of boosted posts towards like maybe people at universities, or so people of a certain, like let's say people 18 to 23 who are at university or like university wanting to page or that kind of stuff, and just experiment with different kind of things like that. I would maybe think about how you could do this, like maybe doing something like with YouTubers actually, like if there's if there are people on YouTube who are kind of your demographic, and there almost certainly will be, then if they could do something, that would be quite cool.
How do you find them?
So it takes a lot of work, I'm not gonna lie. So there are various agencies that do this, but it's mostly checking out, what's quite good is doing searches on Twitter, and then seeing who's talking about it. And from there you can get a sense of, so you can search like keywords and all kind of thing. The advanced search on Twitter is quite good. So it would be worth thinking about, who's saying it and who's got the biggest following. What platforms they're really big on. I'm saying YouTuber kind of to mean generic person who's popular on social media, which is probably not the right term. So yeah, something like that. And then likewise YouTube, just searching for it, and seeing if anything comes up that way. Yeah, it's a tricky one, because if you've, I'm thinking maybe about, I don't know how data driven you are, but like if there's a way of looking at your analytics to see because it might be that the problem actually isn't about driving people to the site. It might be that the problem is when they get to your site. So thinking about, are people bouncing? Are there any problems people are experiencing that maybe the solution is actually at that end? So those are kind of some ideas. But yeah, I definitely think also, is there a deadline to this consultation?
Yeah, 21st of October.
21st of October.
So we've got another couple of weeks.
Yeah, so I definitely think like communicating that urgency close to the time is really important. So we, like generally speaking, if we say respond to this consultation, it finishes in a month, like no one's going to do it. But that sense of urgency of like, we've got 48 hours, like come on, like do it. That's really helpful as well. So I would, if you could speak to people with big lists and say, can we send another one 48 hours in? I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. Also, if any of you guys are super famous on social media, you should share it.
That is regrettably not me, but yeah, if anyone out there wants to, that would be great. Sam, are you working on anything at the moment?
The main thing at the moment is trying to get people to the Weapons Expo. Yeah, and we are.
That's a good question. Like for a physical event, like how do you get people to engage with it if they're not in the same city or?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's quite hard.
Yeah, what we do is so I guess like from that perspective, you want to show decision makers that they have no social license, that everyone hates them, and that they shouldn't be there. So thinking about ways that people can show that online. So what we, I mean, there's quite a number of ways of doing that. You could do like a kind of check-in. Do people want to check into the Auckland Expo? Is there something that you could do? Like, I'm quite a big fan of doing things that then become physical manifestations. So like, is there a way that people like sign a petition and then you write all their names on a giant dove or whatever, you know, I'm making this up, but like a giant symbol of peace and resistance, and then you smash that symbol in through the doors of the Air Force in a lovely, non-violent and not whatever way. But yeah, you know, somewhere so that they are kind of symbolically with you, if not physically with you. That tends to work quite well and kind of lends itself to some quite beautiful storytelling around like, here's how everyone here's how New Zealand rose up against arms, like we rose up against nuclear weapons or whatever. So those kind of things work quite well. Kate's asked, how do you physically move people? I mean, I think it's quite challenging online. Something to think about for what we do is get people, so firstly, like promoting the event like a million times. It's quite hard to get people to commit to coming because like Facebook has quite a high flake rate, which you'll have all experienced. So yeah, I don't know the answer to this. Something I would like to experiment with or something that we do to varying degrees of success is to have like point people. So let's say we have like someone in a neighborhood who we know and trust and we worked with before, and if we can get them to network with people, then that's something that's quite good. So get people to have like physical connections to people who are also going. I mean, there's other things you can do about putting on buses and all the rest of it, but that's maybe a bit, I mean, that's a whole other category. But yeah, I think like people make commitments to other people. They don't make commitments to Facebook pages. And so how you can like make that real is worth thinking about. But yeah, it's a really hard thing. I mean, basically, if we'd worked this out, we'd have had like a revolution by now, but it's quite hard to do. So I guess just try a bunch of stuff, and if it works, great. If it works, then let everyone know, and if it doesn't work, then try something else.
I wonder if there's some way of, if people aren't travelling to the conference, to the protest, some way of them sending something to show themselves symbolically.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and also making people feel like they're there. So like, I mean, live broadcasts from Facebook are not perfect by any means, but they do let people see it. And there's a thing called ManyCam, which is quite cheap. I think it's like $60, and you can do things like, basically, if you had someone in an office and you had other people on mobile phones, you can like patch in, you can basically kind of do TV broadcasting, so you can patch in through different cameras and stuff. So it's actually really, it's quite straightforward, but it's a really great way of making it seem quite cool and quite sexy. And you can have sort of, you know, one person at one end of the protest and one person at the other. You can have someone speaking to someone, you know, there's kind of a whole load of things you can do to make it kind of cool. So thinking about those kind of things to make it seem exciting.
Can I ask one last question, maybe? Just
Yeah.
if there's any talk or campaigns that you've seen that have used social media well.
Yeah, that is a good question that I didn't.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's totally fine. I guess we have some topical campaigners who I think are really good, who have since now become kind of, I don't know, they do quite a lot of work with Greenpeace now. So we have someone called so we have someone called Rosemary, who I won't say their second name, but they started a petition on clean water, and they've since become really active, and so we now use them for like Facebook live actions and stuff, and they're really natural. They're a really natural kind of broadcaster, actually, like they're really natural in front of camera. Kiwi Bottle Drive, I think, I mean, we've worked with them, they're not quite topical, but they're like, yeah, they do really great stuff. And yeah, I mean, I should have asked Sarah this, who does more topical stuff, who does it really well. She could give you a more like proper answer. But yeah, I think like some people do it. Like I think some people have natural talents, and like if someone is good, I basically think that everyone should try themselves out in front of the camera. And if you're good and natural and you enjoy it, then you should just do that all the time. And that's really engaging, and it means that people relate to you, and it means that your issue becomes a human issue and not like an academic issue. But yeah, and those examples that I've seen, that I've mentioned, like, yeah, I've used it really well.
We had one which was for the New Zealand medical students last year called Let Us Finish, and it was to do with removing the limit on loans, how many years they could take loans. And it was just, yeah, I was just quite impressed, because usually it is an organic thing, like people either do it naturally or not for the community campaigns, but they had obviously prepared everything before they started the petition. So that in the banner on the petition, the graphic matched their Facebook page, and the Facebook page, it wasn't just a graphic, but it was a moving little animation. So they'd used the photos somehow, just in a simple way, just to have the images moving, us text telling the story of the campaign, and then inviting people to take action. I just thought, just the thought that they'd put into the campaign, the social media side, before the actually launching the campaign was quite impressive.
Yeah, I think it's also really worth following other, I probably shouldn't say this, maybe I should. It's also really useful, like, I think on that, just following like as many organizations as you can bear to on Facebook and Twitter and all the rest of it, just because you get some quite good ideas around what works and what doesn't, and what they're doing, and you know how it all works and stuff. And yeah, like and it means that you don't have to. Yeah, you can just borrow from other people's experiences, and I think stuff like that is really great.
That's a really good point. If there's any last question, now's your chance. Sam says thanks. I'd like to say thanks as well. Thanks for everyone for turning up and following through and engaging. And thanks so much, Andrew, for sharing your knowledge and your skills, and for sharing your time with us on this evening.
Yeah, no worries. And yeah, totally my pleasure. And if anyone wants to chat more, then like email me, and I'm totally happy to, because I'm in a really lucky position where I get paid to do this, and not everyone gets that. So it's like, if someone wants to like ask me questions or whatever, then I'm totally happy to help in any way. So yeah, I might just put my email address in chat just so that everyone knows it.
And it's not on YouTube. Great.
Okay, I spelled my name wrong. Here we go. Oh fuck, sorry, I've just sworn and just sent it just to you. Okay, try that again. Boom. All right. All right, sweet. Thanks very much, guys. And yeah, good luck with it. See you on the streets.
Thanks so much.
No worries, bye.
Good night. I'll just stay on until you've got that email address if you want it. Cool. Thanks, Sam. See ya.